The ice cubes in your glass have mostly melted now, leaving only a thin, transparent sliver that clinks softly against the side as you tilt it. You are sitting on the edge of the couch, and the fabric feels a bit rough against the back of your legs, a small physical reminder that you are actually there. Around you, the room is filled with the warm hum of voices, the rhythmic rise and fall of laughter, and the clatter of plates being moved. People are leaning into each other, sharing stories that seem to spark and glow in the dim light of the living room. You find yourself nodding at the right times, your mouth curving into a practiced smile that mirrors the expressions around you. But inside there is a strange, quiet distance, like you are watching the entire scene through a thick pane of glass. You can hear the words, you can see the gestures, but nothing quite reaches you, and you aren't sure if you are reaching anyone else. It is a heavy kind of silence that lives right in the middle of a noisy room, a secret weight that we carry when we feel invisible while standing in plain sight. We might even feel a little bit guilty for it, wondering why the warmth of the room doesn't seem to warm our own hearts. It is a hollow ache that says I am here, but I am not known. We are allowed to want real closeness. There is a specific kind of exhaustion that comes from performing a version of ourselves that fits the occasion. We learn to curate our responses, to filter our thoughts, and to keep our deeper layers tucked safely away, where they won't disturb the flow of the evening. We do this because we want to belong, yet the very act of hiding prevents us from feeling the belonging we crave. It feels like standing on one side of a canyon while everyone we love is on the other. And though we wave and shout, the wind just carries our voices away. We start to wonder if the problem is with the room, or if the problem is simply us. In these moments, the air in the room can feel a little bit thin, even when it's filled with the scent of coffee or the lingering smell of dinner. We might find ourselves looking at the patterns on the rug, or the way the light hits a dusty shelf, searching for something solid to hold on to. We are searching for a bridge, a way to move from the outside of the circle to the inside, not just physically, but emotionally. We aren't looking for attention or a spotlight. We are looking for the quiet relief of being understood without having to explain everything first. And here's the part no one tells you: that feeling of being far away is often a signal, not a failure. It's a quiet inner voice telling us that our soul is hungry for something more than just proximity. We can be inches away from another person and still be miles apart in spirit, and acknowledging that distance is the first step toward closing it. It takes a lot of courage to admit that we feel lonely when we aren't alone, because it feels like admitting we are ungrateful or broken. But we aren't broken. We are just longing for a resonance that isn't currently there. We are allowed to want real closeness. When we think about being guided or cared for, we often imagine being led out of the darkness and into a crowded, bright place. But there is a different kind of guidance that happens right in the middle of the crowd, a quiet hand on the shoulder that reminds us we don't have to perform. There is an old familiar song that speaks about walking through valleys and sitting at tables, and it mentions a shepherd who leads us towards still waters. Sometimes those still waters are found deep within us, even when the surface of our life is choppy and loud. The table isn't just about food. It's about a place where we are invited to sit exactly as we are, with no need to pretend. We often think the valley of the shadow is a place of deep tragedy or external danger, but sometimes the shadow is just the feeling of being unseen. It is the shadow of our own isolation, cast by the very people we are trying to connect with. In that shadow, we can feel cold, but we are reminded that we don't have to fear the lack of connection, because there is a presence that stays. This presence doesn't ask us to be more social or more vibrant. It simply sits with us on the couch, acknowledging the weight of the blanket and the hum of the fridge. Before we go any further, this matters more than it sounds. Your presence in that room has value, even if you aren't the loudest voice or the most connected person there. You are a witness to the lives of others, and your quiet observation is a form of love, even if it feels lonely to you right now. But you also deserve to be witnessed in return, to have your own internal world recognized and held with care. We are allowed to want real closeness. There is a subtle lie we often tell ourselves that if we were just more interesting or more vulnerable or more like the people around us, the loneliness would vanish. We assume that the gap between us and others is a gap in our own personality that we need to fill with effort. We try to think of better stories to tell or more insightful things to say, hoping that the right combination of words will finally unlock the door to intimacy. But intimacy isn't a prize we win by being impressive. It's a gift we receive when we allow ourselves to be still. What if the relief we are looking for doesn't come from changing who we are, but from gently accepting that we are currently feeling disconnected, and there is a profound shift that happens when we stop fighting the loneliness and instead invite it to sit with us? We can say to ourselves, I feel far away right now, and that is okay. In that moment of honesty, the tension in our shoulders might drop just a fraction of an inch, and the air might feel a little easier to breathe. We stop trying to bridge the canyon with a frantic rope of words and instead wait for the dust to settle. We are allowed to want real closeness. If this feeling of being a ghost in the room is something you've carried for a long time, maybe you could take a moment to leave the word seen in the comments. It's a small way for us to acknowledge each other across the distances of our own lives, a way to say that even in our separate rooms, we are sharing the same human experience. Have you ever had a moment where one person said one small thing that made you feel like you finally landed back in your own body? Those are the moments that sustain us. I think of a person who once went to a wedding, a beautiful loud affair with music that vibrated in the floorboards. They spent hours moving from group to group, saying the right things about the cake and the flowers, but they felt like they were drifting out to sea. Every laugh felt like a chore, and every question felt like an exam they hadn't studied for. They finally went to the kitchen to get a glass of water just to be alone for a second in the cool, fluorescent light. Another person was there just leaning against the counter, not saying anything at all. They didn't start a deep conversation. They just stood there together for a few minutes, listening to the muffled bass of the music through the wall. The second person finally looked up and said, "It's a lot of noise, isn't it?" That was it. No sermon, no advice, no attempt to fix the social anxiety. Just a simple recognition of the reality they were both in. In that moment, the first person felt the glass pane shatter, and they realized they weren't the only one feeling far away. They didn't need a miracle, they just needed a witness. We are allowed to want real closeness. Sometimes the most practical thing we can do when we feel unseen is to find one small, grounded way to return to our own bodies. When you are in a room full of people and you feel that familiar drift starting to happen, try to find 3 things you can feel. Maybe it's the weight of your watch on your wrist, the texture of the fabric on your chair, or the way your feet feel pressed against the floor. This isn't about ignoring the people around you. It's about reminding your nervous system that you are physically present and safe. It's a way of saying to yourself, I am here, and I am holding space for me, even if no one else is right now. Another anchor we can use is the practice of the gentle truth. In the next 24 hours, if someone asks how you are in a social setting, try to give an answer that is 10% more honest than your usual. I'm fine. You don't have to pour out your soul or make things awkward. You can just say, I'm a little tired today, but it's good to be here. Or I'm feeling a bit quiet tonight. This tiny act of transparency acts like a small crack in the glass, allowing a little bit of the real you to breathe. It's a micro-action that doesn't require heroic effort, just a moment of quiet bravery. We are allowed to want real closeness. The third anchor is the quiet check-in. Before you walk into a room where you know you might feel overwhelmed or invisible, take 30 seconds to sit in your car or stand in the hallway. Close your eyes and tell yourself that your worth is not dependent on how much you contribute to the conversation. Remind yourself that you are allowed to be the quietest person in the room, and that your internal peace is more important than your social performance. This sets a boundary in your mind, a little sanctuary that you carry with you, so that the noise of the room doesn't have to become the noise of your soul. And here's the part no one tells you. Most of the people who look the most connected are often just the best at pretending. We are all walking through our own versions of the valley, and we are all hoping that someone will notice the light we are trying to carry. When we realize that everyone else might be feeling a version of the same distance, it changes how we look at them. Instead of seeing a wall of people who belong, we see a collection of individuals who are all in their own way, searching for home. We are allowed to want real closeness. Let's take a moment together right now, wherever you are. If you can just let your hands rest loosely in your lap. You don't have to do anything or fix anything. Just notice the breath as it enters your body, a cool stream of air that fills your lungs without you even having to ask. It's a rhythm that has been with you since the day you were born, a constant companion that never leaves, no matter how lonely a room might feel. Feel the way your chest rises and then slowly falls, a gentle wave that grounds you in this very moment. You are here. You are breathing. You are present. This breath is a reminder that you are cared for by the very design of your life. You don't have to earn the right to exist or the right to be seen. You are a part of the fabric of things as much as the stars or the trees or the person sitting across from you. If you feel like a ghost, know that even ghosts are held by the earth. But you are not a ghost. You are flesh and bone and a deep, beautiful heart that is simply asking for a little bit of warmth. We are allowed to want real closeness. It's interesting how we often read the words, "Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life," and think it means we will always be happy. But maybe it means that even on the nights when we feel most alone, goodness and mercy are like two quiet friends walking a few paces behind us, waiting for us to stop running. They don't mind our silence. They don't mind our awkwardness. They aren't waiting for us to be the life of the party. They are just waiting to be with us when the party is over and the lights go down. We often put so much pressure on ourselves to connect that we forget that connection is a two-way street. If the people around you aren't looking, it isn't because you are unwatchable. It might just be that they are caught in their own shadows, unable to see past their own needs or their own performances. This doesn't make the loneliness hurt any less, but it does take the weight of the blame off your shoulders. You aren't failing at being a person. You are simply experiencing the reality of a world that is often too busy to notice the quiet things. We are allowed to want real closeness. Before we move toward the end of our time together, I want to ask you a small question. What is one thing about yourself that you wish people noticed more? You don't have to answer it out loud, but maybe just hold the thought for a second. Is it your kindness, your curiosity, the way you care about small details? Whatever it is, take a moment to notice it yourself. If no one else in the room sees it tonight, you can see it. You can be the one who recognizes the beauty of your own inner world, and that self-recognition is a powerful form of companionship. We spend so much of our lives waiting for someone else to turn the key and let us in. But sometimes we have to be the ones to light the candle in our own room first. When we stop looking for external validation as our only source of warmth, we start to develop a kind of internal glow that isn't dependent on the crowd. It's a quiet, steady light that says, "I am known by the one who made me." And that is enough for right now. It doesn't mean the loneliness disappears completely, but it means it no longer has the power to tell us we are worthless. We are allowed to want real closeness. Think back to that person at the wedding and the one who found a moment of peace in a quiet kitchen. They didn't stay in the kitchen forever. Eventually, they went back out into the music and the noise. But they went back differently. They didn't go back trying to be the loudest person or the most popular. They went back knowing that they had a secret place of stillness inside them. They could smile at the jokes and listen to the stories, but they weren't desperate for those things to fill the hole in their heart anymore. They had already found a little bit of the still waters right there in the middle of the chaos. This is the goal for us too. Not to avoid people or to hide away, but to learn how to be us, even when the US we are feeling is a bit quiet or a bit lonely. We can learn to sit on that couch, feel the rough fabric, listen to the ice clink, and know that we are not actually far away. We are right there, anchored in our own truth, waiting for the moments of real connection to happen when they are ready, rather than trying to force them into existence. We are allowed to want real closeness. The conversation in the room will eventually wind down. The coats will be gathered from the bed, the goodnights will be said at the door, and the cars will pull away from the curb. The silence that follows a social gathering can sometimes be the heaviest part, but it can also be the most healing. It is the time when the performance finally ends and we can just be. We can take off the shoes that pinch our feet and the smile that pinches our face. We can sit in the stillness and realize that we survived another evening of being unseen, and that we are still here, still whole, still worthy. In that quiet, you might hear the hum of the refrigerator again or the distant sound of a car passing by. These ordinary sounds are like a gentle heartbeat of the world reminding you that life goes on and you are part of it. The table that was prepared for you in the presence of your enemies, the enemies of doubt and isolation, is still there. You are still invited to rest. You are still allowed to be exactly who you are without any footnotes or explanations. We are allowed to want real closeness. The shadow of being misunderstood is just that, a shadow. It has no substance of its own. It cannot change who you are at your core. It cannot take away the goodness and mercy that are following you. It is simply a temporary condition of the human experience, a passing cloud over a sun that is still very much there. When we feel the shadow, we can learn to wrap ourselves in the blanket of self-compassion, waiting for the light to shift as it always does. Before we close this loop, think back to the opening scene. You are back on that couch. The noise is still there. The laughter is still there. But this time, instead of feeling like a ghost, imagine yourself as a quiet observer who is deeply loved. Imagine that the shepherd is sitting right there on the cushion next to you, not saying a word, just being present. You don't have to talk to him. You don't have to impress him. You just have to be. And in that being there is a tiny glowing seed of connection that is real, even if no one else in the room can see it. We are allowed to want real closeness. If you found a little bit of comfort here tonight, maybe you'd like to subscribe and join us for more of these quiet walks. It's just a way for us to keep each other company in the middle of a world that can feel a bit too loud and a bit too fast. We don't have to have all the answers. We just have to stay. We just have to walk alongside each other, one breath at a time, one quiet room at a time. The glass in your hand is empty now, and the sliver of ice is gone. You can set the glass down on the coffee table, noticing the small ring of moisture it leaves behind. It's a mark of your presence, a tiny proof that you were there and that you interacted with the world. You are not a ghost. You are a living, breathing soul, and your desire for closeness is a beautiful, sacred thing. It is the compass that will eventually lead you to the people and the places where you are truly seen. We are allowed to want real closeness. Take one more deep breath, letting it go slowly. Feel the stillness that lives under the noise. You are okay. You are here. You are not alone, even when it feels like you are. Goodness and mercy are right behind you, and they aren't going anywhere. Sleep well when you get there, or move through your day with a little more softness toward yourself. You've done enough today just by being you.